Good morning. Welcome back to Jen's Awesome Show. I am here with Chan and Sophiane, and I am very, very excited to, well, I sort of know you, Chan, but not really,
Yeah.
meet you and to meet you, Sophiane. So here we are. We should probably start with a bit of an introduction as to who we are. Maybe, Sophiane, I'll let you go first.
Sure. So, hi, I'm Sofiane. I'm 39. I'm from Paris originally, and I've been in the tech world since the early 2000s. I'm passionate about creative value coordination, which is a topic that I tried to crack for 15 years. I've been involved in fashion, music, and software. And so, those are like the three areas that we are kind of combining together with what we are doing with Newcoin.
Perfect. Okay. I'm Chan, and it's spelled Trang. And let's see, I come from a background of education and fell into startups when I wanted to get out of academia because it drove me crazy, and fell in love with a man in Paris. Decided to move and ended up in France. Met Sofiane in France. He asked me to be an advisor for one of his startups, and I was doing a lot in tech and mentoring and coaching. I've coached TED Talks, all kinds of random, interesting things. Worked for Blackstone, kind of the Darth Vader of business. And Sophie had this, he always wanted to run an accelerator that was tied to his blockchain. And we get along very well, and I really believe in his vision. And that's kind of how I ended up where I am right now.
Cool. All right. Well, from there then, maybe we'll go around in circles here, the sort of same pattern. Sophiane, tell me a little bit about the businesses that you've founded, and maybe instead of the usual questions of what are they, let's go with what's the strangest thing about each one of them.
Wow. So the first one is a company called Labs Media back in 2005. Our goal was to build, the strangest things. Strangest thing, well, we were already doing Webflow in 2005, and it was a complete fail. Nobody understood it. I think we were 10 years too early. And we were talking to different clients who were very happy with WordPress. We were offering like WYSIWYG, let's say, interface creation, like you could build your website through a web interface. And we had all the like SEO features and social and commerce and so on. It was like super advanced, and it was a complete failure because it was too early. The second one was actually out of Labs Media. Within this platform, we had some websites that were supposed to be like use cases, like examples of what can be done with the technology. And one of them became the most visited lyrics website in France, which got us in trouble with the music industry. We got, they were basically asking for 80% of the ad revenue, like those syndicate of, artists who also take 80% of the revenue of the artists. So I don't know actually why they are here, but anyway, that was really strange. Another strange thing is that we created a fashion website, which became the most visited fashion website in France back in from 2006 to 2012. And we worked with, I got into fashion kind of by accident, and we ended up working with all the top tier brands like Chanel and Dior and so on in their digital. And then after that, I tried a lot of things at the intersection of monetization for creators, let's say. And 2015-17 was the formation of New Life, which was the first prototype app that led to Newcoin and a whole new foundation with this whole ecosystem of DAOs, basically, that are designed to empower creators. What's the most interesting or weird about it is that we are we are trying to solve a problem that's very, let's say, recursive, in the sense that creative value discovery is everywhere. We have this like epiphany where we see everything from the angle of creative value discovery, in the same way as a company like Trello, for example, is like, living out of Trello. They are all working remotely and so on. It's a bit similar for us. We live by the product that we create, and we are building it for ourselves as well.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you for all of that. This is absolutely fascinating. Had I known about your website creation business back then, I would have definitely been very, very excited. So
Is that what you do? Do you do that kind of thing? Do you...
It's not exactly what I do, but I can. My background is primarily journalism, but there was some design that came with that, and some. I'm not going to say that I am good at graphic design and layout. I passed the class, and I understand some of the fundamental principles. So my job as the person who's still learning things is to make our head designer look good. So everything that I make is okay, but there's a big difference. So it's something that if I had more time to devote to it, I could probably do more with it.
Yeah, the right tools always make a difference, right?
Huge difference. And I never did have the right tools, so that's a big part of it.
So now you have the story.
Yeah, exactly. So Chan, you're also involved in a bunch of these businesses, and also involved in, I guess, the greater community at large. What would you say are the, let's go with top 3 most unexpected or strangest things that have happened since you have been involved?
I think there's a big stereotype I find that you have to choose. That you have to choose like Ethereum or Bitcoin or one of these communities. And I've never been like that. Mm-hmm. So you asked me an earlier question, like, how do I know people? Because I don't choose that. I choose my politics. I think that's it. Those are very clear for me on some things. But things like that, blockchain, I think, is a technology. I think it's a great technology, and how you choose to use it, it's all going to come to a head. We're all going to use the same thing, right? We're all like, you guys are going multi-chain. And so I've always believed that. And I know Sophiane does too. So I find that people who understand that from the word go don't tend to just be stuck in a camp. So I find that ones who are very like, you can't talk to them because they won't talk to you. I'm always surprised that they feel that way, because when I talk to other people who are Ethereum or Bitcoin or, Wax, New Coin, whatever, EOS, the ones who understand, who have been here for a long time, like, look, if it works and it's me and the community at large, that's all that matters. So that always surprises me, because you never know who feels that way. And yet there's still, like, I think for some chains, they feel still very like scared or intimidated by the bigger two. Like, okay, we're not as cool as them, which is not true. Everyone wants the better solution. Everyone thinks they can do better. And we all know we can do better. So everyone's just waiting, and then they'll shift. So I think that surprised me that people are still stuck like that, considering it's not just people by age, it's very young people, because blockchain can be very cultish. So I think that's what's interesting. And then the other two, I think you said it in one of your tweets, that and I think it goes very interesting. Women are here, but they're not represented the way I would consider women. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you were in a TNOIC, and you said it's a lot of pandering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of frustrates me. And I think that the notion of gender and all that, it should be super inclusive, because we have an opportunity with blockchain. And if we're going to replicate Web 2 for that, that's going to be the downfall. So like Sophiane has always had a team. You look at New Life, it's very inclusive. I mean, some of it I'm like, I think I feel old when I look at these things. I don't understand, but I know it's cool. And my daughter's like, oh, that's cool. And she's like 10. So like, okay, this makes sense, because kids don't see the same way as an adult does. So to me, I always like, it's surprising when I put it in front of my daughter. And she goes, okay, I get that. Or she goes, no, that doesn't make any sense. So I mean, you have kids, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
right. A lot of children have adopted technology so well and done really well with it, which makes me very hopeful. So there's that one. And then the third, which isn't surprising but sort of is, that how other countries have adopted it, from the Philippines to like Kenya, South Africa, versus where in Europe and the US it's still quite regulated and cumbersome. And I think if Europe and the US still and Canada get stuck like that, they're going to fall behind, and we're going to get our butts handed to us. And I think that will be no surprise to anybody who knows it, but a surprise to everybody who is like, well, we need to regulate it more. We need to do this. You're like, oh my God. So yeah, those are my three.
I can relate to absolutely all of those. So yeah, especially doing what we've been doing in the last couple of weeks, getting people in saying, yeah, we're going to launch on Ethereum, but we're still on Wax. Hey, get a Wax account. And the results are really mixed.
Yeah.
Most people are okay with it once they do it, but it's
resistance.
There's resistance, and there is some playing on teams in that people either it actually is really different and I'm just too new to the space to know, or people are seeing it as this big different scary thing because it's proof of stake.
Yeah.
And I'm not really sure which it is.
Yeah.
But it's a very mixed reaction. And then there are some people who just walk on in and they're like, oh yeah, okay, sure, done, let's go. So
yeah.
It's interesting, but I see the value in getting everybody in, and I'm doing this motion, some of that, whatever that is.
Cross-pollination.
Yeah, that's the stuff I'm here for. So,
yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit then. Let's take all of that and mush it together and talk a little bit about the community aspect. Sofiane, maybe if you wouldn't mind starting, you have a conglomerate, maybe that's not quite the right word, of businesses that are all kind of together but separate identities. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the community that has shown up from that?
Yeah, sure. So I think there are two main aspects that I find fascinating about Web3, and that solve the kind of problems that I've been seeing all my life. The first one is, how do you turn everyone into a co-founder? How do you get like 20, 30, 100, 500 co-founders? Very difficult. People are very, in the employee mentality, because we have been programmed for that. We have been, trained in classrooms, in, corporate settings and so on, to be given orders by someone and to be just like, exchanging our time for money. On the other side, I believe that we all have the potential for creativity, for self-drive, for innovation, and so to me, what has been always fascinating is like, if you look at the amount of talent that is currently trapped into those like corporate structures, they could decide to say, hey, I don't have money, you don't have money, we cannot hire people, we cannot invest, let's all put our resource together and let's start something. You see like 1,000 people waking up every morning to go to work at a corporation, passing their badge, like cattle, like their little badge in the stuff, and it feels like so depressing. And they could just like decide to unite and start something together and be like, okay, let's all live at the same time and create our own stuff. So I think Web3 is actually doing that to a certain extent, and I think it's going to accelerate, where everyone is an owner, everyone is like owning their little space. But there is a transition to that. And so the way we are, and so the other thing that I find fascinating is the fact that in the, if you look at Web2, you have users that, participate in those ecosystems, either paid or not. So for example, YouTube does pay, content creators, Spotify, Instagram doesn't, zero. Some TikToks, I think, doesn't pay anyone unless they have like a little centralized, fund that gives to people they choose. But there is no native like model on those platforms. And so what if, and so those who pay are not actually paying in the whole, upside. So if you take, for example, Patreon will take $100 from your fan and give it to you. But then when Patreon gets valued at like 2 billion or something, the creators who have, contributed to that are not part of that like that side of the economics. So if you remove the equity structure, you remove the corporate structure, you remove all of that, and you say, okay, it's just value, it's creative value, and this creative value is owned, and the compound, value of this creative value is owned by the creators, their fans, their communities, and so on. You actually have successfully replaced jobs by, passion or vocation or ikigai or whatever you want to call it, but you make people happy. And so I think that's what I love about it. When it comes to the way we are structuring new foundation, so we started with a mobile app, then we went to create a blockchain protocol, and the way the ecosystem works is a bit like at the intersection, and it's a transitionary path towards each department has a brand. Each brand is an individual entity. Each individual entity is run by its members, and they are autonomous. And we just have some like regular catch-ups from time to time, but there is no like micromanagement, board meetings, and all of that. They are just like a group of freelancers that have like a monthly payment and like some KPIs and some goals to achieve. And we are trying to move all of this into a more gamified experience where it's really about having fun. It's really about knowing, if I do X, Y, Z, it has an impact, and this impact is measured, and I can see, try different approaches on like how to do like, community building or events or development or product or all of that. And so, yeah, we try to like, split departments into brands because the end game and the long-term game is that we cannot disappear. We cannot dissolve in this decentralized community where everyone is like independent and autonomous. So there are many ways people transition from like company to Web3. Some will just, release their protocol and they will, thank you. We made a lot of money. That was fun, guys. Now enjoy. Good luck. Some of them are more, they keep participating. Like if you look at Ethereum, for example, you have still, Vitalik, who's like still around and giving like talks and trying to be like, cheerleading the community and so on. I'm not sure if he still develops there, but now, you have a big ecosystem, but the initial like Ethereum Foundation is still active. And so there are many, many forms that it takes. And yeah, the way we are doing it is through kind of blurring the distinction between the people who are completely outside, like the apps that come to the accelerator and the build, and we try to like plug into them as much support and help as we can. And some are like closer to the core and closer to the core and closer to the core, all the way to like people who are, let's say the core team, the leading team, let's say that's closer to like more, orchestration of the ecosystem. And so the goal is that this will again like spread towards being like completely decentralized.
Neat. I find it interesting that you mentioned gamification for all of this, because that to some extent speaks to an ability to quantify progress. And I find that absolutely fascinating in a creative way, mostly because so many creative things that we could do are very hard to measure. And that's something that I'm seeing. I mean, I also chair the budget committee, so I'm going to be going over budget proposals, and I'm excited about it. It's a slow burn. Getting anybody else excited is a bit of a challenge, but to be able to quantify the creativity is very important, because we need to know if, how are you going to tell if you're successful at the thing? And, that's a huge one. So I do expect me to be snooping around and watching out of curiosity.
That's actually, something that that's very interesting, because the more we try to push toward gamification, the more the traumas of corporate culture are popping in people's mind. Because whenever you put some like points, tracking, measure, and so on, people start to think, okay, I'm being like, under surveillance, under micromanagement, or, it's like a police state type organization. When actually you could always look at it in different ways, and when people ask me like, but what is different between Web3 and the social credit system? And I would say there are like two main differences between those two things. Social credit system are usually, referred to as, you don't choose them, they are applied to you without your consent. So some entities like watching everyone and adding them to a database by force. And second, the consequence of the score is a negative one. So you don't get a plus, you don't get an upside, but you can get penalized. You can be, prevented from traveling or things like that. So what is the opposite of social credit system, which is what I think we are building? It's something that's voluntary, that's anonymous, so pseudonymous. So you can create a profile and enter, an ecosystem and play by the rules of this ecosystem. And you get, the upside if possible. If not, the only thing that can happen is that you don't get an upside, but there is no like penalization. And so same for, gamification of creative labor, let's say. When you are at a corporation, the only thing that can happen is that you can lose your job. So you have your payout every month, and if you don't meet your KPIs, boom, you are excluded from the corporation. And so people live out of fear. The main energy is like fear, because you are sitting on a very big pile of resource, assets, money, time, and so on. So that's the luxury of being in a corporation. But because you have everything to lose, and so everything is based on like trying to keep as much as possible and trying to extract as much as possible without taking too much risk. When you're a startup or when you're a creator or founder, it's actually the opposite. There is no downside. You have nothing to lose. The only thing you can lose is like your time, maybe. But there is no we don't have $1 billion that can be lost. So we can actually be much more offensive, and we can actually afford to have much more fun and being more. And so we have to kind of unlearn that trauma of school, of corporate culture, of like all that past that has conditioned us to who we are now, and basically learn this like new way of doing things, which is based on having signals that allow you to see if you are going in the right direction. Because it's very frustrating to like do stuff and not see, when do you celebrate success and what does success look like? And that's what I think gamification can achieve.
I'm glad that you brought all of that up, because I've I guess adapted. I'd forgotten about that fear feeling. It's been a while, and it did not occur to me that that would probably be the prevailing response to any kind of measuring of anything, including self-defined success. Because I mean, ultimately, if you're creating a thing, then you are also creating whatever that success looks like. So it's nobody's expectations but yours. But yeah, if you came from somewhere where it's success or really big failure, then that's an issue. So yeah, that's something interesting to think about. There's a lot here for me to think about, because I've been just getting more and more excited and into the mentality of we can be creative and we can create all the things and do whatever we want and just make it work. And yeah, so it's good to have those reminders. This is new, very new. Thank you. Jen, what would you say would be the overarching thing that's the most common in all of the communities that you're coming across? Is there any one thing that kind of brings them all together, or is it more just a bunch of, for lack of a better term, cells in a petri dish?
I think everyone who's drawn to Web3 that's in this particular community is very supportive. So getting them to all collaborate was so easy for me. I'm like, oh, what about this and this? And I'm like, sure. And it wasn't like, no, I don't have time. I can't do that. Everyone's like, this is an opportunity to work with someone in my field with the same belief system. Let's figure out what we can do. And it happened so quickly. I mean, I see that from the Uplift way you approach everyone. Like, we do billboards for everyone. We can do land. Let's do this. And there was never a no. So I think that is a really, like, it's very refreshing, but it doesn't surprise me, but I think it's super cool. And it leads to a lot of like things that I'm sure you see, like all the stuff you're building, like, oh, there's this project and this project, and they don't all have anything in common, like except for that they all believe that this technology is going to be the game changer that makes whatever they believe in happen. So yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that, and that's also absolutely fascinating to me because that was not the culture I came from. So to go from, spending probably a solid year trying to get somebody to say yes about anything and then jumping into a place where nobody says no, it was
Yeah.
wildly different.
Like,
It was
how can I help
wonderful.
you? And what can I do? Give me 2 weeks. Even if people are busy, like, I'll get back to you in a couple
Yeah.
weeks. And they're cool with that. I mean, you went to a big conference. I won't say anything about the conference, but I know that all the side events, everyone was like, it was amazing. I met so many people. And I think, especially after like we're all coming out of COVID, it's like really nice to see them. People are way more grateful as you guys do the gratitude wall to have people around them and like to build together.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. There were a couple people who were kind of, yeah, I'm just here representing my business. Okay, well, you're an anomaly. But only a couple. Everybody else was all very curious. Who are you? What do you do? And then how does that work with, the unspoken question of how do I make that work for me? And that was, you have 30 seconds to get that in. So how do you explain that? So I guess that's the next challenge. I mean, I know what the Uplift Metaverse looks like to me, and I see it every day. I've had some chance to explain it to people, and it's an interesting challenge because everybody has something in their past that sticks for them.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Sofan, have you seen what they built for us in Ethereum? I don't think
oh,
you've
I
seen
should
it.
show you too.
You should show Sofan so you can see.
Yeah, I have to go find it. I think I know the neighborhood, but that's okay. Going to find it's half the fun.
Yeah.
While I'm doing that, Sophiane, what are your thoughts on how does the metaverse fit in with what you're doing? What about it is
Yeah, I
important?
think the metaverse is an interesting topic because there is a lot of room for interpretation as to what it means. So maybe we can start with a definition. Our thesis with the new coin blockchain is that we believe the digitalization of human life has either to be an amplification of how people can coordinate faster globally. So instead of like all the friction of taking the plane, traveling, going to conferences and so on. I don't know if you have noticed that, if you have felt that since the recovery of COVID, feeling that you are basically the time efficiency of like going to an event, the time efficiency of like experiencing the real world. Like sometimes I spend the day where I will do like 30 minutes with Hong Kong, 30 minutes with San Francisco, 30 minutes with da, 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 like the amount of people I can talk to and so on. But then like the 2D is maybe a bit limited. So the question is like, are we going to do a transition to 3D? I don't feel like the metaverse should be seen as only 3D. I think it's more trying to replace the necessity to be present in the same place so we can free more time and be more efficient. And it doesn't mean, not being online anymore. It means that the time that you spend online should be as efficient as possible. So I think Zoom is like the biggest metaverse application currently. And so the question is, what are the other experiences that people can leverage to? And so the way we look at it is, on one side, there is an underlying, let's say, registry of assets and data and people and places and so on that is like part of the new coin graph, let's say. And then there is the experience layer. And so the experience layer can be, different features, different apps, different tools, and 3D is one of them. And so we are looking at providing open source SDKs for people to like build fast. We are very interested in Unreal Engine 5. I believe it's like the next big step, towards like a more photorealistic, more granular, approach to quality and GPU and CPU optimization and so on. So yeah, super excited about this. And overall, I do believe that the physical presence is something that we need to not forget and make sure that we keep in our life. So yeah, and it's not incompatible. I think we can do both very well.
I like that quite a bit. Absolutely. What about you, Chen? How do you feel that the metaverse really sort of fits in with both what you're doing and the direction the space is headed? Or does it? I guess that's a fair question.
Yeah, I think the metaverse now, I think it's always been here. Like, I think to Sophia's point, we've always had some form of it. Now we're just identifying it as something that's not that you touch. I think it became much more obvious, like Sophia said, during COVID. What I like about, I'm hoping where the metaverse is going, that it will democratize how we approach everything, culture and people and our understanding of each other.
I like that.
Ooh, here we are, like this.
This is. I love that this is so close to Spawn because it's like my favorite place to start.
Oh, the Meta, is it the Meta Art Club?
Oh yeah, Meta Art Club all the way, and of course it's hanging. I don't know if it's my computer or my internet this morning, but something's hanging. But yes, all the way up with all the art you can see, and then you just go out. And I don't know, I love the design of that.
Yeah,
it will not get old.
Slowly.
Stuck. Yeah, I don't know what my deal is this morning, but everything's slow as slow can be. So let's take a look around here. If I head this way, if I know my coordinates correctly, so Spawn, I guess I should start there, is over here. This is the world Etheria. It's a creative world. And I have my Spawn kitties are there waiting. And if I go up the hill, I will run into NFT the movie. If it loads, there we go. And they have a nice little movie theater. And then if I go over this way, we have some block cities hanging out over here. And if I keep going all the way out, I should run into your neighborhood here. And I'm saying I should because I actually haven't been to this corner of the map yet. So I have an idea of where I'm going. This looks about right. Yeah. Okay. Oh no.
Oh, did it crash?
Yeah, that was a bit of a big crash. I'll try again, and maybe I don't know what the deal was there, but I'm going to try without the shaders because that doesn't normally happen. My apologies.
Oh, no worries.
I'm glad the whole thing didn't crash. That's a little bit much, but that's happened before. Get on a live stream trying to show people things, and then like, no. Oh, that's interesting. I can hear you, but the StreamYard is totally not working for me.
Oh, no,
okay.
Really? Okay.
Well, maybe I switch just to audio. Let's find out. Yeah, I might have to. Okay, well, plan changed. So there is a lovely metaverse, and there is a lovely place in the metaverse for you. And do.
Oh no, it's just us. Hi, Sophia. I think she'll jump back in. But they put in new life and new coin is in there. With a QR code that leads to our websites.
Amazing.
And we have land, so if we want to create something in there, we just gotta let them know.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There I am. Okay. That was an epic technical challenge right there. So I guess I'm not sharing screens today for reasons. but what we've tried to do is create neighborhoods of projects where we think people would, both projects that everybody's brought in. So let's say that we have you, Chan, we have you, and you've recommended several projects and friends and people to us who you think would fit right in. So we've made a neighborhood for you with all your friends. And then we've added some people around the edges who we think might fit within that ecosystem, or people who might have ideas and be willing to collaborate and whatnot. And we've taken that and extended it to all of our 100 projects. So Corey is handpicking all these lands and putting people in positions where they could meet people potentially. So we are definitely working hard on the whole community thing. We want people to meet people. But more than that, we also want people who are coming into the sale on Saturday to have an opportunity to look around and say, ooh, there's the new foundation. They're doing some really neat things. I want to get land next to them and hope that maybe I can like meet them or see what they're doing or get involved somehow. And I'm curious, given all of that, what do you think makes a good metaverse neighbor? When you're in these neighborhoods and you're doing your thing, what are you looking for in a metaverse neighbor? And either one of you can go first.
Well, so due to the origin of our ecosystem, I would say aesthetics, I think, is very important. So one of the topics that we are being asked about very often by startups who want to build on Ucoin, who are not like super deep into the metaverse but want to create 3D experiences. It's like, how do you allow creators and creativity while still making sure that there is a consistency between how the different parts, the different buildings, like kind of come together? And that's I think a very important question.
I like that. How do you feel, Chan?
Oh God, that's interesting. A good metaverse neighbor. I think it's just like seem like life, like that you click. They're not tearing down your shit. They're supportive, like dependable. Like like you go, hey, do you want to do something? That you could throw like an event and they'd come by, or they'd like tweet about it, or they'd share about it. They'd go help you promote it. You do the same for them. Yeah, you don't have to do the same business. Like I said, like there's Kotani Pay has been very collaborative and thought about like, oh, maybe we could do like NFTs and do it for raising money for different projects that are in our area, and use Kotani Pay because it's for the unbanked, and they want to collaborate with like Reblium for that. So it people just have to think outside the box. Yeah,
I like that. And I guess that it makes it another question. Given the communities that you're bringing into the metaverse and the diversity there, do either of you have any ideas for fun events, things that you can do in the metaverse, either on a regular basis? Like, let's say we have our weekly happy hour. We meet. We have a Twitter space, and then we meet somewhere in world, and we hang out and talk to each other, and it's a good time. Do you have any thoughts on that? And I realize this could be a completely new question. So,
can you guys do scavenger hunts?
oh yeah,
I think that would be cool. Because
we're doing one on Saturday.
Yeah.
Just in the run up to the sale, there's a sign punch scavenger event, and it's going to be wonderful fun.
Like a scavenger hunt, and then you bring someone from your family. Bring someone you want to play with. That's nothing to do with your business.
I like that, and make it a team thing. But you bring your team.
Yeah, whoever that is, it can be family, not whatever. But you bring somebody who has nothing to do with your business, and you do a scavenger hunt, and you gamify it.
I like that.
Sophia has some ideas. I see him. He's like,
yeah, you can see the thinking.
Yep, Sophia.
Yeah, I think that there are so many ideas of events that can be done with combining fashion, creatives, and more like game. So I'm thinking about ways to to enable like maybe more gamified ways to acquire assets that are not necessarily like play to earn, but things that are more around merits. So currently we are very obsessed with this question of like, what are the things that you cannot buy, and that cannot be sold? Because that dimension is really missing currently in the crypto space. It's a very financial, thing, and we could benefit a lot from bringing non-financial components to the mix.
That's a good challenge. I like that. And that's not something that I have heard people bring up before. It's possible they have, but I certainly haven't heard it. There's been a lot of talk about how do I put up a drop for my NFT, or how do I sell my stuff, or how do I promote my business? But the stuff that can't be bought or sold is different again. So that's going to give me a lot to think about. I like that. Thank you. Excellent.
A problem solved, like Sofian said. Throw a problem up there and everyone solves it together.
I like that. Yeah, because there are ways to use problem solving in a gamified way, but then there are also ways to use problem solving to create something.
Yep.
And that's different altogether. And of course the game mechanics around that are different, and the levels of permissions and all the rest of it. So
Sofian, do you have to run? I know you stayed a bit longer than we thought.
Yes, I'm a little bit late. Thank you so much. It was lovely.
Absolutely. And we'll talk again. Thank you for dropping by. This has been great.
Awesome. Great to meet you then. See you, Trang. Bye.
That was fun. Thanks for inviting him.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't always know the who's who in all of these communities and stuff, so it's wonderful to show up and meet people and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, New Coin Foundation, Sofian's built a very strong ecosystem. We have a lot of moving pieces, but everything like fits very well, I guess you'd say. Yeah.
I like that, and I appreciate the self-governing aspect of it as well. I find that resonate's not really the right word, but I like it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
you like the vibe.
I do. I really do. Yeah. I like giving people a voice, and it's with the transition to the DAO, it's been interesting because people weren't used to having the voice, and so they'd still be doing the same old whiny question asking, and they didn't really know what to make of it when the answer was, okay, go make a proposal on that.
And they're like,
I don't have a proposal. Right, well, you write it out, and then you tell us all that it's there, and then we go look at it, and there still is quite a bit of hand-holding around that, and I'm finding that to be interesting, because to me, if that opportunity exists, of course I'm going to just jump all over it, but I'm that person. So
but do you think that might be a matter of, like, I mean, we're both women, and we're used to like proposing ideas, having shot down.
Mm-hmm.
So having it proposed and people seeing it, it's like our voice is heard in a different way. So we always have to find ways. Like maybe it could be that.
That's a possibility I hadn't considered, because I don't care if my ideas are shot down. I just care if they get out there and somebody looks at it and has a reaction.
Because if you have any kind of struggle, you know what it's like to have your ideas not heard. So you're like, you have to keep pushing.
Yeah. It's this notion of being able to be heard is wonderful.
Yeah.
But it could actually be the idea of rejection could be a thing that people are thinking of.
Or like, is it they get perfect? They get very like, does it have to be written a certain way? Is it formatted a certain way? Does it look good? Like,
yeah. Well, and ownership of the idea too. I find a lot of people are very attached to this idea is my baby, and you better be nice to it. And we're like, this idea is an egg, and if you crack it open, what do you find inside? I don't know, but I bet you could help me out with that. And so that's how I'm approaching it.
Yeah, you can make an omelet, or you can make a fried egg, but it's still an egg. So
yeah. So that's a good one to remember. Have you had any kind of an experience with encouraging people to be more involved? And if you have, then what's kind of what works?
Involved in what sense?
Probably involved in a self-governing sense, like transitioning from being told what to do to being the person who has the ideas.
I think a lot of Web 2 folks have a hard time when no one gives like, hey, this is the direction. They give like a vision, and then everyone contributes to it, and they expect like it could to go like this,
Mm-hmm.
and then they bring like their idea, and it works, but it's not seeing that like there's other moving pieces, because they're used to staying in their lane and doing just their lane, and not saying, okay, here are all the pieces. How can you do it so that we all win, doing the same methodology? Versus like I've done this like in 25 years of companies. I know it works. And you're like, well, that's true. We're not trying to build a company. We're trying to build community. I think that mind shift is much harder than people realize. Much harder.
I have run into that. There are a couple people I can think of who have come back in, usually not out in front of everybody, but in a direct message and said, but this is the way it's being done. So why did you do it that way? And so that's been interesting. They are asking questions instead of being demandy, but it's definitely a different mindset to get used to.
Yeah. I mean, you have a couple kids, so you know it's like to manage like all this and like pull it in so it just gets all set and ready.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, it's all good, nothing's broken. I think that's hard for a lot of people. It's they have a, because when you measure people on numbers and very like metrics that they seem clear to people, they're people, right? And I think
Yes.
anything the pandemic showed us, the notion of an office isn't necessary.
Yeah.
And watching your people, if they're good people, you don't need to watch them.
Yep.
And the notion of a 40-hour work week, while it makes sense, I get it, doesn't mean that someone can do it in 10, someone can do it in 60. It's all relative of how people do it, as long as everyone agrees that this is the vision, we all want to push to that vision. So I think it's going to be difficult. I think that when you see a lot of people resigning and a lot of people who during the bear market being let go in Web3 are not going back to Web2. I think it's like a 75% retention. They're like, okay, I'm going to find another a Web3 project. I'm not going back to Web2.
That's, yeah, I was thinking about that recently too. And like, if everything, and always that's been in the back of my mind, because when I took the leap into the uplift, it was full of uncertainty and volatility, and that's not a comfortable place for me. I have a house, I have a family, I have responsibilities. So anything that is uncertain feels really not good.
Yeah.
And my whole entire family, to my surprise and delight, said, no, go for it.
Oh, that's cool.
And I didn't really expect that. I didn't know how to feel about it. And so a large part of the last year for me has been thinking of what's my backup plan, because that's always been how I've run my life. I have my main plan and then I have a backup plan. And it turns out that I actually have more like about 20 backup plans, and all of them are good. And that's a really, really good feeling. But
It's a good feeling, but it's still scary, but in a good way.
It is. And it's, I don't know, it's a different thing. But would I ever go back? No. Not in a heartbeat. Absolutely not. There's so much that I love about this, the creative and collaborative atmosphere, that I would not trade.
Yes. And
so,
the flexibility.
Yeah. It would take more than a market crash to get me out. Things would have to die a slow, painful death and really drag it out, and it has to be beyond dead and buried before I'd leave.
Yeah. And even then, because the community is strong, you can say, hey, does anybody need help with this? You know what I do. And when you win, I think it could be fairly easy.
Yeah. Well, and that's huge. But having the community is huge, because the community creates the opportunities just by existing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in a typical corporate world, you don't have that. It's called HR.
If you're lucky, you get the HR. Otherwise, you wait for 20 years for somebody to retire or die. So, yeah.
Right.
No,
right.
I'd rather have people on a more even playing field.
Yeah. Because let's say you did this podcast and you did it for a corporation. They'd be like, okay, these are all the bylaws. Here are things you can say. Here are topics you can talk about. And you and then you'd be like, oh. And you can't touch this subject, and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I left a newspaper over that when I was fresh out of college.
yeah,
I had a very nice newspaper job, or at least it seemed nice to everybody on the outside, and there was some opportunity with it and all the rest of it. And I wrote something, and they said no, and I said, great, here's my notice.
yeah, yeah,
I refuse to pretend that everything's okay when it's not.
yeah.
So
It can be very constricting, and some people do very well in environments like that. But I think the reason I love education, I love the and blockchain is I've always been a fan of the creative side. I think that music and theater and art, it's a shame that majority of countries cut that out after a certain age for kids. And I think if
yeah,
we put that in, because I don't think majority of people's minds are meant for the way we teach math and science.
no, I had a really hard time with math. It turns out I'm actually very good at it, not just math, but math in my head.
Right. And see, so if you teach it a certain way and everything's a creative way, you can conquer so much more. And if you think about when they teach you the alphabet, it's music. And when people start to lose like a dementia or Alzheimer's, the things they remember is music.
Yeah, and I find that interesting because I can't keep music in my head to save my life. I can play it sometimes.
But it can emote something. It emotes something in
Oh
your
yeah,
brain. And so all that art creating, it always has a different feel because you're attached to it emotionally. And if you can
I
teach that, that's whatever a subject is, then that makes the difference.
absolutely, and I'm trying to teach my kids too. And this is a different mindset for a lot
Oh,
of
are
people.
you doing homeschooling?
No, thankfully, I love my children. Homeschooling them is a challenge. They are pretty good, but
Okay.
it's a challenge
Yeah.
because their abilities and their enthusiasm are in wildly different places. But
Yeah.
it's finding what they're interested in too is half the battle. But
Yeah.
they're wildly creative, and what I'm trying to teach them. My daughter is the younger one, and she keeps saying, "Do you like my whatever?" And I keep responding with, "What do you think of my? How do you feel about my?" And go with it that way, because do I like it? Well, sure, but like is only one of 1,000 feelings. If you make
Right.
art and I have any kind of a strong reaction to it, you've done your job and it's a wonderful piece of art.
Right.
I might feel absolutely uneasy and back out of the room and trip over things on my way, but then you've definitely done your job as
You
an
get
artist and
something.
made something
Right.
incredible.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So like, what was your process? How did you get there?
yeah,
So
yeah, and that's as much curiosity as anything.
yeah,
But
and that usually gets killed when you start a job.
very much so, and that was where, I mean, my last actual job, I was quite um, happy but unrestful. I kept wanting to try to do things and change things and solve things, and it was not that kind of a place.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they certainly never they didn't come back at me and never say anything bad. And every once in a while, something got sort of solved, but I did feel like I had more ideas than there was space for.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. If you are in a community where there's space for everything,
Yeah,
then it's like, yeah, everything is possible, which is an awesome feeling.
it really is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
So, if you have, let's say, wrapping it up here, one takeaway, with connecting people in community, because that seems to be something you're very good at. Um, how how would you advise people to do that within the confines of the metaverse? So I'm running around in the metaverse doing my thing, and I meet you, and I do the little weird metaverse squat dance to say hello, jump a couple times because really that's how we communicate.
Yeah.
Um, how do I take that from weird metaverse dance to we should talk and create something?
Maybe take them on a tour.
Ooh, I like that.
Say, and then they just follow you.
Yeah.
And they say your turn, and they do the same. And then you see if you're in the same vibe.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good easy one.
Yeah.
Social things are not my thing. Um, I can organize a party, but I never get invited to them. So,
No, that's not true. I can't believe
mm,
that.
I've been invited to a couple parties, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I was to say, yeah. I just think it's the same. Like you show your curiosity and people show you theirs in a game that's You're like, oh, I think that's would be cool. I was talking to one project, and their thing is like they're going to leverage blockchain technology to show you someone's NFT profile. So you can look at them and say, oh my God, you got this and this in the game, and you got this, this, and this drop. And you can see everything about the person to learn and understand like how they, and then you go, how did you do that? And you can just start there.
I like that.
Yeah. So like, see, then that's like, I've never thought about that. Like, oh, that's a different way of profiling someone in the game to learn. Especially if you're a gamer, like, oh, you won the sword. Oh, how cool. How many points do you have? And you beat this person. And that's really fun information.
It is.
And so I imagine if you're like, you're a builder and you've been building here in the Uplift, say, hey, come see my new build, or what do you want to see, or that kind of thing. And then people just, then you get to learn, like, I don't know. I've never been here. It's my first time. Say, are you a newbie, or you know, who do you
Yeah.
want? And I think that's just it. And you just kind of give yourself, say, I got 15 minutes, let's run around and or whatever it is you have, and just see where it takes you. Like
I
zero
like that.
expectations when you have community.
Yeah, definitely zero expectations. It's never what I expect.
Right.
And that's part of what I love, honestly. Cool. Well, we're just wrapping up here. The sale is on the 16th, the ETH land sale, and before that, we're trying to get people into our Discord.
Exactly.
And it's a no pressure ask. I expect that everybody I'm inviting will communicate as much or as little as I do, which is actually very little these days. But our community is extremely friendly. We have wonderful, wonderful people in the Discord, and they would be delighted to see some new faces.
Yes, and Lawrence is here. Hi, Lawrence.
Hi. So, yeah,
What is your handle on Discord?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think I'm JBar, and then there's some number that I can never remember.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah, it's JBAR. Super easy peasy.
Well, as long as they put at JBar, they're going to find you. They're in the Discord.
Yeah, I think so, because I was surprised that I was the only one, because in most of the platforms that's been taken like 20 years ago. So that was, yes. So, yeah.
Well, don't forget, everyone, get in that sale, get that land, start to create and build, and you'll meet some very cool minds.
I'm just dropping the link in the comments here for anybody who's not already in the Discord. It's there. It's easy. And feel free to share it all over the place. We don't have expectations of communication in there, but we announce all our stuff. So if you want to know what we're doing, and the reason for that is because their Ethereum has gas. We don't want to step on anybody's toes or cause a gas spike or anything like that. So we have, I believe it was 6 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. We're going to do the sale unless somebody else is also doing something and gas is kind of high, and then we can postpone as long as an hour. So the actual timing will be announced in the Discord.
Okay.
And I assume we'll push it out on all the socials as well, but Discord first. So
I think that's midnight for me in Paris.
Mm-hmm. That's late.
That's party time.
Okay. Are you a night owl or a morning person?
I'm unfortunately really I'm a night owl, but I'm both because our daughter gets up early, as you know, kids.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You get to see different people at those times of days.
It's true. It's real true. Yeah, I don't do real well after about 11. I get super sleepy and stupid. So
the creativity begins. You're like, I get ready.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it's like that, and then good luck, no sleep.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining me. This is awesome. We'll have to talk again.
Yes.
All right. And for anyone else who is out there, I'm back at. Oh, and Lawrence, you are.
Well, the survival plots on ETH. Woohoo, Lawrence!
Woohoo! Awesome.
Are you on the Discord, Lawrence? Tell me you're on the Discord.
I think so. I think I've seen Lawrence in the Discord. I do look around more than I talk, but
I'll have to jump in the Discord because I'm in the Discord too. So
yeah, it's a good time. Cool.
Oh, he is in Discord because it's WTF Lawrence in a game. I think he must be, right?
Probably.
Or is
I think
that in
so.
the game in the
That's in the uplift.
Uplift?
But
Okay.
I think also in the Discord. I've seen the name is familiar. So
Okay. All right,
yeah.
cool. Well, if anyone joins you want to join our accelerator, I should be
Yes.
sending you a Discord channel. Okay, perfect, Lawrence. Just come join us at newmoon.ac. And if you have a
Yeah.
great startup and you are want to get into Web3 or Web3, we can like figure it out. Raisin Blake. Oh, I love the name, Lawrence. It's amazing.
Okay. Now I'm putting two and two together.
Woo!
Awesome. And I've got all of the new foundation social contacts and website stuff in the description of the video.
Perfect.
So that's all there for everybody to check out. And I do highly recommend checking it out. This is a group of very creative people. And even if you're looking at it thinking, I don't know about this, go check it out, read through it, look at it, get to know it.
It's newcoin.org is our foundation, and then New Moon's our accelerator.
Okay.
Yes, and then New Life is the DApp that launched it all, the origin story.
Right. Okay. I'm still trying to keep all of the branches of the tree straight in my head. So
yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's an organization worth knowing. So get out there and get knowing.
Well,
and
let me know. I will jump in the Discord. I'm actually hosting a dinner for the Metaverse Summit in Paris, so we'll be there trying to like live in, like, hi, we're here at Ethiopian. So we're gonna try to jump in and say hi to everybody.
That sounds amazing. I'm excited about that too.
Yeah, we'll post some pictures and be like, let's do it.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and then ECC is this coming week. It's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So people are coming in, so I'll make sure to talk about it as well.
Thank you.
How long is the sale for, by the way?
The sale starts on Saturday, and I assume that things. I don't remember if it's a 24-hour thing or not. I assume that it would just be left on sale, but maybe I think the plan was to go for 24 hours and hopefully sell out, and then everything else would be on the secondary.
Okay. All right, cool.
I'm relatively certain we're starting on Rarible. OpenSea is OpenSea. They're great. They broke a bunch of stuff, and so Rarible. But OpenSea is going to be the home of the secondary, so that's where to look for everything when people buy it and resell it and all the rest of that good stuff. So,
all right, cool. Yay!
Yeah. Woohoo!
Woo! All right. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'll be back at 11 if anybody else is watching.